Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the show, and it is show number 243. Happy to be here live on Facebook with you. Proud member of the Education Podcast Network, Voice Ed Radio Canada, or wherever you are taking in your podcasts, even if you happen to be in Thailand today, where our guest today is coming from. He's doing some leadership work there, some coaching work there. Bradley James Davies is joining us today. An amazing story, a leader from around the world, doing some cool and creative things in school leadership. And here's his book, A to Z, School Leadership. We're going to talk about it. Really cool, really well written. Summer is getting upon us here soon. Spring is here, right? We all like to look for that book. What is that book we're going to read this summer? What's that next book? Really excited about this one, and we're going to talk a little bit about it here. Again, show number 243. I do want to give a shout out to the Ballard County Bombers. You guys know I'm a Port Jervis guy here. I love my Port Jervis Raiders, but I'm going to start wearing shirts from the schools I've worked at and worked with or spoke at. And I was in Ballard County, Kentucky a couple months ago. That's in southeast Kentucky. And give them a shout out. Great school, great leaders, Kevin Estes and their superintendent and the work they're doing there. So a shout out to the Ballard County Bombers. The sponsor of the show today is me. It is that time. It is that time where people are booking school openings. People are booking summer retreats. People are booking keynote speakers for their next fall. And I would love to get involved with you. Some of you I've worked for in the past. But if you're looking for a summer retreat, you're looking for a keynote speaker to open, I want to be that person for you. DM me or reach out to me. And my information is on my website or at Twitter, at Andrew Murata21 on Twitter. All right. The opening topic here of the show is the ABCs, right? We're going to talk to James Bradley about his book here and how he wrote it. But Leadership A to Z. There's so many ingredients that go into it. There's so many things. It's not one perfect thing, right? I'm going to talk to Bradley about many of the concepts in there, but I use this prop a lot when I speak, right? It's not magic. It's not one thing, right? I could rub this all day long here. Nothing's coming out, Bradley. No magic is happening here. It is a combination of all of those points in the school leadership A through Z, all of the topics in here, all of those ingredients that make it special. So if you're that leader looking for that one thing, right? What's that one magic potion, right? It's like those advertisements you see on Facebook. Hey, you want to lose weight? Take this pill. Like, no, it's not that. That's not the answer. It is a combination of the food you're eating, the rest you're getting, the exercise you're doing, all of those things, your mental health, your physical health, all of those things that go into moving you forward. So what are your ABCs? What are your A to Z? What are the ingredients that you are putting in your leadership, and find that nice combination for you? We're going to dive into some of the ABCs here in the program, but let's bring Bradley into the program. It is in the morning there in Thailand. Bradley James Davies, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, everybody, or good evening. Welcome from the future.
The future, 11, 12 hours away?
Yeah, we're 12 hours ahead. So,
wow.
Yeah, great to be with you, Andrew.
And Bradley, I want to apologize. I know we had some ups and downs and emails and backs and forths and broken ribs and such, but you made an effort to flex your schedule, and I appreciate you making time for Education, Leadership, and Beyond.
All good. No, I'm happy to be here and happy to be partnering with you. Love your work and really impressed by you.
Yeah. Well, let's get rolling, Bradley, and I want to start with the ABCs. Tell me about the inspiration of this book. Tell me about that concept, that moment in time that said, hey, this is how I want to write this book, and this is the reason why I wrote this book. Why the ABCs?
Well, it goes back to during lockdown and COVID. I was inspired to start writing by my friend Crazy Carl, and he comes by that reputation, um, honestly. And Crazy Carl during lockdown decided to learn how to play the guitar and made a decision that by a certain date he was going to play a song for my buddies and me and share it via our text thread. And he did that. And it was hilarious and beautiful that he was trying something new. And I committed to myself that I was going to write one chapter of my Wienermobile book and share it with my buddies during COVID. And I'd always wanted to write. So I did it and kind of really enjoyed the writing process. So fast forward further into COVID, and COVID proved to be the cinder block that broke this camel's back. And as a result, I crash landed a career, Andrew, and limped away. And as I did, it started, I don't think I've been 99th percentile in anything in my life, but so far it's proving that when it comes to a midlife crisis, I'm just right there at like 99. I'm a high achiever. I'm a high achiever. And, so there I am I'd walked away from school leadership. I'm traveling the world trying to figure myself out. And my friend Loren Carter wrote a great book called Mindful Admissions about the college admissions process. And I reached out to congratulate her and to hear about the process. And she told me about this self-publishing consulting group with whom she worked. And I said, I've always wanted to write a book. And she's like, you should call him. So I call him up, and the fellow gets on the phone with me, and he starts asking me about the book I want to write. And at that point in time, I really wanted to write a book about the midlife crisis. I think we have an opportunity to reclaim the midlife crisis as something positive, as almost puberty 2.0. I really see a correlate between the craziness of a 7th grader and the craziness of a 47-year-old. And as I'm telling him about this, now I'm a crier, Andrew. Like, I'm a crier. I won't cry in your episode today, but I'm a crier.
Maybe you might. We might get you there.
I don't know. So here I am talking to this guy and talking about my midlife crisis experience, and I'm crying. And he was like a great kindergarten teacher to me. He says, wow, Bradley, sounds like we have some real big feelings about this topic. And he's like, well, let me ask you this question. If I were to give you a microphone and put you on a stage in an auditorium of 5,000 people, what could you host 2 hours of Q&A about without any preparation?
That's an interesting question.
Oh, great question. He was fantastic. Game changer conversation for me. I said, well, for better part of 20 years, I've been serving schools. So I guess school leadership. He says, all right, well, who's in the crowd? And I said, well, current leaders, new leaders, and I would think a lot of teachers who are thinking about school leadership. He's like, okay, great. Who specifically is in the crowd? And I shared, I said, my little brother is there. He's a 4th grade teacher. He's maybe the most amazing person on the planet. And his name's Andrew, actually, Andrew. He is kind and gentle and creative. I mean, he is an amazing human. And at the time, he was considering becoming a school principal. And when I think of him and his gentleness and all of it, I was like, oh, and I was sharing with this guy, I think my little brother's going to get eaten up. So I'd want my little brother to be in the crowd to hear, what I can hopefully share with him about, what I did well, but also how I did not do things well. And it hurt my well-being and hurt people I loved and cared for. And this guy was great. He says, all right, that's your first book. You might write your midlife crisis book, but your first book is about school leadership, and your audience avatar is your little brother. And so when I sat down and started writing, I just kept thinking about Andrew. Write this for Andrew. And so that's kind of how it started. And then now you have it in your hands. Yeah. And I must say, it was a healing process for me, writing about the things I was proud about, and also writing about the things where I really went wrong. It was an opportunity for me to heal, and I chose to publish it because I really want to help. I really want to help school leaders avoid some of the pitfalls that befell me.
Yeah. And you could just pick it up. You could just pick it up and go to letter F. You could just pick it up and go to letter Q, right? Q-tip or quit. The P, please and thank you. There's so many great little tips in here, Bradley. You say I just sat down and started writing. Can you tell me about the process? There's so many leaders that want to write a book but don't know how, or think they can't. What was your process?
I'd be curious to know about yours as well. I'm really impressed with what you've produced. For me, the big lesson as I got into this project is you got to work with your left brain or your right brain, one at a time, and let your creative brain just get the clay up on the table. So writing that first crappy first draft was crucial for me, not to try to edit as I go. So in the structure of the book, being the shorter alphabetized essays, I could really tackle one essay at a time, get the clay up there, and then leave it for a minute, start writing another essay, get all the clay on the table, and then circling back around. And I knew in theory, but now definitely in practice, that to write something that merits another person spending their time reading, to write it well enough for that, to add the humor, to add the stories, and to really be vulnerable and transparent, it takes a lot of editing as well. So it was getting the first draft done and then just beating the thing with another draft and another draft and another draft. I'm probably most proud that I just got the thing done, because it was very difficult. That's basically the process. Peek behind the curtain of how it came to be.
Yeah. And did you go in order, right? Did you write A, B, C, D, or was it that topic that was on the top of mind for you?
Well, you and I decided to maybe talk about G is for Got a Minute today, and that was almost C is for Customer Service Desk. So I really, as I was brainstorming essays, I had a big spreadsheet of all the different essay topics that popped into my brain. And gosh, I think ultimately the book was 45,000 words, and I had close to 75,000 words of content. And just thinking through then which essays fit best, which essays, how can the book be as comprehensive as possible for the entire reality of school leadership. So some things got left out that I kind of wish got in there. Some things weren't going to go in there that got in there at the last minute that I'm really happy about. Like, for example, there's an essay called H is for Humility, and I have it on my blog. And it's more of a soulful essay about just how humbled I was to crash land my career, and just how much of a failure I felt like, but that ultimately through that humility is, I think, probably the most helpful thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And then one essay that wasn't going to go in, that just got put in at the end, was me telling my favorite story ever about my college soccer coach, and that's L is for Leaders Go Last. So it's just kind of a potpourri of essays, and then trying to bring them together to create the most comprehensive and most helpful collection of essays possible for leaders.
And I love how you call them essays, little excerpts here, but let's go. Let's get into a couple of them here. I picked out a few that just kind of, got a minute, right? How many times does that happen to us in school?
Oh.
Yeah. Do you have a minute? You got a minute? And I love your little tidbits about where to go, right? To protect your time instead of trying to bunker down in the office. You gave some great advice here to try to protect your time. Can you share them?
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, like I mentioned, it was almost C is for Customer Service Desk. I think the reality is that a school leader's office is not a place where they go to get work done. It's where they go to be found. And it's also just prime territory to get earlocked, where that got a minute becomes the entirety of that class period. The teacher has their off period, and their got a minute is, I'm going to sit down and have some one-on-one time with the principal or whatever. So what I suggest is, first of all, I beg leaders not to close their door unless they're having a confidential conversation. I think from a cultural standpoint, it just screams a culture where where you're cut off from the people you serve. But the three tangible pieces of advice I offer is, one, be in classrooms so often that when you walk in, kids barely even turn their head. And if you can get to that point and let your teachers know, hey, I work in the back of your classroom, I just soak the stuff in by osmosis. I'll pause and observe a little bit, but really I'm just in the back to soak this in by osmosis. Well, the reality is you're hidden from the teachers who are lurking, who want to earlock you with the got a minute request. And you're also among kids and children and teaching and learning and the amazing humans that are your teachers. So you're soaking up just by osmosis that positive energy, but also you basically work uninterrupted. So you can crush your emails, you can push your paper and do the the less fun stuff that just has to be done. And if you don't get it done at school, you have to get it done at home. And that's the crime. That's the crime against your loved ones. So hanging out in the back of a classroom, the kids will barely ever interrupt you. It might be a third grader like skipping up to you to show you their drawing, which will only make you happy and remind you why the heck you do the work in the first place. So, and then of course, once you leave the classroom, I do encourage leaders to send a quick email, like a 30-second email. Hey, Andrew, really appreciated what I saw. Thanks for the opportunity to camp out in the back of your classroom. So then all of a sudden, now you're rocking the appreciation as well. It's like multiple wins. So one is be in the back of a classroom. The second one is be hidden in plain sight. And so I used to love just posting up in a highly trafficked hallway. Now, people will walk by and earlock you, but it really will only then be for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
So they, oh, hey, Brad, I've been wanting to ask you about this. Boom, boom, done. Rather than they sit down in your office and you're just fried for like 30 minutes. And also being in that highly trafficked area in different parts of the school, you start to get a sense of what's going on your campus. And people see you. And it's just, again, it's win-win-win. And then the last one that I just think is absolute gold is proctor a study hall. One, no one on your team wants to proctor a study hall, so you'll look like a hero and that you're being a servant leader, and you are literally adding value because now a teacher doesn't have to proctor that study hall. But two, you run a real good study hall. That thing is quiet as a church, and talk about in that 45 or 60 minutes, you get so much work done. And you get to greet kids as they come in as well. It's pure magic. So the got a minute is how can you figure out ways to be present in school, add value, while also getting some of that paper pushing done so you don't have to take it home with you at night.
Awesome advice, great tips, and it puts you around the kids, like you said. I want to invite our audience in. There's a number of people watching live, so certainly jump in with a question or comment as well for Bradley, learning about his journey. Bradley, you mentioned A is for appreciation and writing that email to the teacher, and that was one of your first A's here. Tell me about that essay, as you call it.
Well, I just don't think there's anything more important that we do as leaders than appreciate our people. And the reality is I see leaders in all sectors as chief appreciation officers. The fact of the matter is that you get more of what you water, and good stuff watered becomes great. And our people flourish with that praise. I mean, kids and teachers are plants that cannot be overwatered. Excuse me. And so in A is for Appreciation, I talk about this fellow named Lee Cockrell.
Yeah.
Who wrote a great book called Creating Magic. He was a VP at Disney. And he wrote 700 notes of appreciation to his front cast staff a month, 175 a week. And when you hear that, it's like, my gosh, can I at least write one? And that's my challenge to leaders. Can you write one note of appreciation to your team each day? Let's say there are 200 instructional days in a year. That's 200 notes of appreciation a year. Celebrating things you want to see more of, watering what you want to see grow. Too often I think school leaders walk their campuses looking for weeds to pull instead of plants to water. And my belief is oftentimes the best way to eradicate the bad is to emphasize the good. So we can write one note of appreciation a day, emphasizing, celebrating what we want to see more of. I think the impact of that cumulatively over a year can be gigantic. I must say, the research on appreciation is super important. For it to be effective, it has to be personal and it has to be specific. So that email we're all tempted to send out the day after Parents' Night, yeah, that one does need to be sent out because it is Parents' Night. Hey, great job last night, team, etc. But if you send too many of those general ones, it actually can have an inverse reaction where you can seem disingenuous. So it has to be personal. Hey, Andrew, I saw you in the lunchroom with Billy yesterday. I know it was a tough conversation. I really appreciate how you approached that. It's a real joy to work with you. Boom. Specific and personal. Yeah. And now, if you have handwriting like me, I'm borderline dysgraphic. It's like hieroglyphics written backwards. It's okay just to send an email. Oh my gosh. it's okay to send an email, but now if you have nice handwriting and you can create a handwritten note, that's an old school added value add. But yeah, A is for appreciation. If you get appreciation right as chief appreciation officer, I think all the craziness comes into line. It's my greatest and strongest recommendation.
Yeah, it's great stuff here, and I love having my little personalized notes, right? Little things, and you stick them in. My friend AJ Bianco from New Jersey is watching here. AJ, what's going on? And he's got a question for you there. So we'll throw it right in there, Bradley. Can you see it on your end there?
Yeah, I can. Hey, AJ, thanks for your question. There's a number of essays that didn't make it in. Top of mind, well, okay, a few. One, A is for athletics director. I wrote that essay. I feel like athletic directors probably have the most difficult job in schools, even more so than principals and superintendents. All the hiring parents, right or wrong, tend to care more about athletics than anything, and they are just getting abused, and their work hours are insane. So that one, I think, giving athletics directors some love. I was lucky enough to serve as an elementary school principal, a middle school principal, and a high school principal. So I kind of have a good understanding of the unique human that is a high school teacher, middle school teacher, and elementary school teacher. So I wrote essays with absurdly long titles. And this particular essay was what high school teachers need to know about elementary school teachers, what elementary school teachers need to know about high school teachers, and oh yeah, you middle school teachers too. It's an absurdly long title, but I think if you've been in schools, you kind of get it.
Oh yeah.
So those kinds of pieces, I think I'd like to put in there. But there's a lot because the school world, it's comprehensive.
Yeah.
That's a few for you, AJ.
Yeah, and AJ's juggling a lot of things too. He does a podcast also,
Oh, wow.
Bradley. So yeah, good stuff. Last one from the book, and then I want to talk a little soccer with you. I is for introverts, page 109. You really shared about your personality. You really shared about, as you say, some of the things you went through. My wife is a huge introvert, and you really had some good stuff in there about extroverts and introverts and school leaders. Share a little bit about that essay.
Yeah, that was one of my more personal ones.
Yeah, it sure was.
Essay,
yeah.
The opening essay, Now I Know My ABCs, is like, oh my gosh, here you get to know everything you ever wanted to know about Bradley James Davies. But my introversion, it's probably my biggest detriment as a leader. And I'm an introvert off the charts. I'm outgoing, I'm gregarious, all the things. I love people. The reality is the difference between an introvert and an extrovert is, Andrew, if you and I go to a party, at the end of it, I'm drained and exhausted. If I'm presuming you're an extrovert, I don't want to presume, but let's presume you are just a little bit. After that party, you're energized. You're raring to go. So at the end of that party, you're looking for another party to crash, and I'm looking just to crash. And so school leadership in life for me is much like a cocktail party without cocktails. And I would go home absolutely exhausted, absolutely exhausted. And so the best of me was invested in my school communities, and I just brought fumes home to my family and friends. And so, Susan Cain writes this great book called Quiet, where she talks about introverts and the value they can bring to leadership. And I agree wholeheartedly. What I try to do, and I is for introverts beware, is to just draw introverts' attention to the potential drain on their energy that school leadership will have.
Yeah.
For them to be aware of it. Extroverts, you guys are so lucky. You guys are more authentically wired for this work. Introverts, we have something to offer. We just need to be savvy about how we manage our energy. And so I just go into a few of the tricks of the trade that I had to master to help me manage that energy. For example, at the school party, you probably stay until the end, but an introvert needs to manage working the room and then sneaking out the back door. At a basketball game, an extrovert might work the whole crowd, but an introvert might post himself on the opposite side of the court where they can be seen, but they don't have to chit-chat the entire night. So they're just little tricks of the trade that I try to offer my introverted brethren, because there's a place for us at the table of leadership. We just need to be really savvy about how we manage our energy. Otherwise, again, you bring home just a whisper of your best self. the most important people in your life.
Yeah.
That's what I hope to help introverts avoid.
Well said. Well said. And I love how each chapter there, each essay, you wrap up with a how to lead well without losing your way, right? Great tidbits there. Highly recommend this book, guys, for your school leadership journey. Um, very well done, James. So congratulations on your first book. I'm looking forward to your second one.
Thank you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it, Andrew.
I think playing college athletics is a big deal. And you didn't just play college athletics; you were the captain on your Division I soccer team at Stanford University. That means you're a smart dude, you're an athletic dude, and you have leadership oozing out of you. Was that a big deal for you to become the captain of your soccer team? And tell me about your journey playing college soccer.
Well, it was a long time ago when dinosaurs roamed the planet. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life, to be honest. And to be selected as captain was just an incredible honor.
Yeah.
And my teammates remain some of my closest friends on the planet. I will share this one story. My soccer journey starts with amazing coaches, my youth coaches. With my family journey, having amazing male role models in my life was a game changer. And so my soccer journey starts with really, truly amazing coaches and humans, and ends with really amazing coaches and humans. My junior year, we got a new coach, this guy named Bobby Clark, and I write about him in my book. And it's one of my favorite stories to tell, so I'll offer it to you here, and I think you'll love it. And the essay is called "L is for Leaders Go Last." And the fellow Simon Sinek, I think he wrote a book or an essay, "Leaders Eat Last." And before Simon Sinek, there was Bobby Clark in my life way back in the 90s. And it was my senior year, and I was one of our captains. And we had just flown down, and we had played San Diego State the night before on a Friday night, and we had won, and we were high about the win. And there we are in all of our gear, and you've been you're a former college athlete yourself, so we're in the Holiday Inn Express, and we're in the banquet hall, and doing the breakfast buffet, and we're all in our team gear, and we're lined up, and I'm about halfway in the line, about half the team in front of me, about half the team behind me, just chatting with my buddies. And my coach, Bobby Clark, taps me on the shoulder. He's a Scottish guy, about 6'3". I'm 6 feet. He's 6'3", big dude,
Wow.
but even bigger personality.
Yeah.
Played in 2 World Cups, total stud. And he's a Scottish dude, and he taps me on the shoulder, and he says, "Hey, Skipper, can I talk to you outside?" I won't even try to do my bad Scottish accent. That comes out in the audiobook, and it's pretty shocking. So the listeners can just imagine I have a great Scottish accent. So he asked me to go out in the hallway. So it's just the two of us out in the hallway. And he stares me in the eye, kind of down on me, big 6'3" dude. He stares me in the eye and says, "Skipper, what are you doing?" And then he's just quiet. Power of leadership is asking a great question, right? "What are you doing?" "Oh, hey, coach, just excited about the win last night, good recovery day, and then we'll train later." I was just a little nervous. I mean, gosh, I was, 21-year-old kid. He asked the second time, "Skipper, what are you doing?" Now my heart starts beating a little bit. I've been pulled out into the hall. It's just the two of us. It's like I've been pulled out of class. I'm feeling like I'm in trouble. And I said, again, coach, boys are feeling good. Really great. We got the result last night. Excited about the game tomorrow. Now I'm starting just speak nervously. A third time, he interrupts me and says, "Skipper, what are you doing?"
Wow.
And then I break and I said, "Coach, I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know." It's like, "You're the captain of this team, correct?" "Yes, sir." He says, "Well, I see you in there getting ready for breakfast. You should be at the end of the line. Leaders go last. Your job is to make sure everyone on the team gets everything they need to eat before you think about yourself. You're here to serve. Leaders go last." And I tell you, he said it in a tone of voice where he wasn't chastising me. It was great teaching in that moment. And he just said, "Are we good?" I said, "Yes, sir." We never spoke about it again. But it shaped my view of leadership forever.
That,
So playing at Stanford, it was a game changer experience for me. But that conversation stands out as one of
yeah.
the most important in my life.
And to think about your journey, right? How many games, how many amazing experiences, right? And it was a Holiday Inn, breakfast eye to eye moment with your coach that you're talking about 20 plus years later.
Yeah.
Amazing that these little things that we remember. Well, kudos to your coach there for you, and kudos to you for remembering that and putting it in the
I
book.
must say it was a special moment too, because when I finished the
Excuse
essay,
me.
when I finished the essay, Ellis for Leaders Go Last, I emailed him and I said, "Hey, Coach, I'd like to use this in a book. What do you think?" And it was a great way for us to reconnect.
Yeah,
And he was so kind, and he's just a class act. So I'm
yeah,
glad I got to share the story for others as well.
yeah. And you were the class president your junior year.
Junior year, yeah, yeah,
Wow. So
yeah.
so you had a great combination of leadership and again, smarts and athleticism. Did you know in while you were in Stanford, like, hey, I have leadership in me. I'm gonna use this down the road. Was it there as a 21, 22-year-old?
Oh gosh, I don't think so. When I think back on that young man, I think I was just trying to keep my head above water. I was paddling just as hard as I could. Um, I think I've always had a sense of me, Andrew, that I love being part of teams. I love people. I love supporting people. Um, but I think I don't know, when I look back on that young man, like he was just doing his best, trying to put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a great story. Give me some comparisons, being on that soccer pitch, as you call it, to school leadership, right? There's a lot of moving parts in soccer. What are some comparisons that you've learned over the years?
Well, from soccer in particular, I guess I would say school leadership, so much trust is required to be a good school leader. I mean, the reality is what you've got a team of 30, 40, 50 teachers. You've got to recruit well, train well, invest, and then you've just got to trust that they're making the magic happen. And soccer is a lot like that, where you practice during the week, you have a strategy, you have tactics, and then ultimately the coach, the leader on game day just has to trust that the team, the players are going to do their job and make the magic happen. So I think in that way, I think that's the correlate I'll draw from school leadership and soccer. Um, Soccer, once the whistle blows, once the school day starts, it's like it's game on. You just got to trust your people to make the magic happen.
That's interesting. Because start of the game and the bell ringing at school.
It's like the whistle, right? It's like,
Yeah,
and we're off. Who knows what's going to happen today?
that's amazing. Though I'm sure you have 1,000 stories, but the one you shared today from your soccer time, pretty cool, Bradley. And you're doing some different things now. You're coaching. You're leading around the world. You're presenting in different places. You're on a pretty cool journey. Tell me a little bit about the work you're doing now.
So I started a consultancy, a leadership and life consultancy I call Falcor. And Falcor is named after my spirit animal, from the movie The Never-Ending Story, the book The Never-Ending Story. If you have not watched or read The Never-Ending Story, please do. Falcor is a luck dragon, which is basically you take a Game of Thrones dragon and you crossbreed it with a therapy dog, and you get a
Mm.
Falcor. And
Mm.
really, it's what I do is I work with leaders in a coaching capacity, and with schools. What I've been doing most of is a lot of book studies, where school leadership from A to Z, with its individual essays, partner with a school leader and work with their leadership teams, and we kind of cherry pick essays and then do deep dives virtually
Nice.
around specific topics. So the book is, I didn't think of this when I wrote it, but I've stumbled upon a real good opportunity for school leaders to work within their teams. I can work with the school leader. We can cherry pick essays and do deep dives based on what that team needs right now. So that's been a lot of fun as well. And then I'm really trying to push myself out of my comfort zone creatively to keep writing. To AJ's question, working on a few essays now, and trying to think how I can just serve and support while I'm not in formal school leadership. I believe in schools passionately. I believe great schools need great leaders, If we don't have great leaders, teachers can't be their best. If teachers can't be their best, kids won't be their best. So now really just trying to explore how I can add value and keep helping schools expand and serve our kids well.
Awesome. Well, you're on your own journey as well, but the way the book is written, you know, a leader can pick it up, right? Second period. Let me read 2 essays here and go put them into practice right there. Let me get out of my office right now and go into that classroom and absorb, like you said, through osmosis. So kudos to you. Bradley, I shared a little bit, right? My theme, my motto kind of is surviving and thriving. And I think you and I have some of that in common. So I say surviving and thriving. But what is that one word? What is that one action? What is that one mindset for you to take you from surviving to thriving? What would you offer about that question here on the program?
When I think about the importance of the work and the challenges of the work of leading and leading schools specifically, the word that comes to mind is together. That I just beg school leaders not to try to do this alone. I caution school leaders not to think that their partner at home can be their partner in school leadership. That might not be the healthiest burden to lay at their feet. But to do this together, to really be proactive about partnering with other school leaders where you can be real, where you can really be real with them about the struggles. Instead of, you know, we wear our navy blue blazers and we posture about everything's great in my school district, everything's awesome, you know, but to really partner with a few other school leaders and have deep soul conversations about the struggles of the work. Also, in being together, you also get to share best practices and scale best practices, even small little things like, ooh, Andrew's doing that, I can do that. I think together is my strongest encouragement. I am biased. I think every school leader should have an executive leadership coach. If I had had one 20 years ago, Andrew, I think I'd be 10x the human being I am right now. And to be honest, I think I'd still be leading schools. I'm grateful for the role I get to play now in supporting school leaders. And I'm also still mourning the fact that I didn't do the work in the way I should have done it, and it burned me out. So together is the word. Get yourself a coach or a counselor. Get yourself a group of other school leaders where you can support each other. Remember, in community, our hurts are halved and our joys are doubled. And also in community, ideas are shared and scaled. So the word I would offer is together.
Beautiful answer here. And I know you're providing that service for school leaders. Bradley, if someone's interested, is the best way to get in touch with you through your website?
It is. BradleyJamesDavies.com. I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. But yeah, the best way to get a hold of me is via my website. My email is connect@BradleyJamesDavies.com if folks want to email me directly.
Yeah. And I saw your blog is on there, and I signed up for that today. And kudos, man. Bradley, before we wrap up, I got to hear about the Wienermobile that you drove, the Wienermobile, and how did you do that? Where did you do that? Tell me that about that part in your life.
Oh my gosh. Again, this is going back to when dinosaurs roamed the planet. This is in the 90s, and sitting around with my buddies, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life.
The Wienermobile.
And one of my friends, and this is pre-internet, one of my friends had a big book, The Top 100 Jobs in America, and they were flipping through it, and someone mentioned, hey, the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, and everybody laughed, and I thought it sounded fantastic. So I applied for it and ended up driving a 27-foot long hot dog around the country for a year, went to 36 different states. It was a fantastic experience. There's a book in there. I don't think Oscar Mayer wants me to write the book. I've explored it, but we'll see if I can sneak out a few good essays.
There's a book in there for sure.
Oh my God.
That's incredible.
Oh my God.
That's incredible. Bradley, let's get to rapid fire. These are quick questions, quick answers here. We're coming down the stretch. That last bell's ringing. Kids are running down the hall. It's time to go. And before we get there, before we get to rapid fire, was there anything that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask you?
The only thing that I would emphasize that I try to share in A to Z is I wish I would have laughed more. I wish I would have laughed more. I wish I would have remembered rule number 6 and not taken myself so seriously. I wish I would have softened, slowed down, laughed at the absurdity that is a school day and that can present itself, laughed at myself more, given myself permission not to be perfect. So I think that'd just be a message I would want to offer folks, who are in school leadership or considering it. Yes, there's no more important work on the planet than what we do with kids in schools. There's no more important work on the planet, in my opinion. And yet, so we should take it seriously. And yet we don't always have to take ourselves so seriously. And brother, I took myself way too seriously for way too long, and it weighed on me. So that's what I would love to share with folks that we didn't have a chance to touch on today.
Well, thanks for your vulnerability and your honesty, and certainly sharing these points. I know many of our leaders, some watching on the program, are going through those things now. So thank you for that, Bradley. All right, let's roll here. Rapid fire. It's going to bring us down the stretch. Last book you read?
Last book I read was Bono's autobiography called Surrender.
You recommend that?
I do. He crafts a great story. And as someone like you and me who've tried to put words on a page that are meaningful for folks to read, he's a wonderful wordsmith. It's a really interesting tale of his journey and also, the band's journey. Yeah, I'd recommend it.
Surrender.
Surrender.
Okay. Last movie you saw?
I think the last movie would have been the new Top Gun, but I think I'll just claim this as a movie. A few nights ago, I binge watched the first half of season 3 of Ted Lasso.
As a soccer guy, you got to love it.
And Ted Lasso, come on. If I ever meet someone who doesn't like Ted Lasso, those just aren't my people.
Yeah, hit the road. Come on.
I don't know who you are. Yeah.
Oh, my God. I love it. I was going to ask you about Ted Lasso. We love it as a family show. Your favorite dish?
Oof. If I had to choose between Thai, Indian, burritos, pizza, and sushi, I got to go with a burrito because I think I could figure out ways to make it like a variety. If I was stuck on an island, and I could only eat one thing, burritos, but then I'd bring in different flavors.
Mix it up. A lot of culture in that answer right there.
There you go, brother.
You've been traveling all over the world. You're picking the places. Where was one place you really loved?
Oh man, I'd have to go by category. Beach, Santa Teresa, Costa Rica. Mountains, a tie between Bariloche, Argentina, the Dolomites in Italy, and the Lofoten Islands in northern Norway. Wow. Oof, amazing. Cities. Madrid is my favorite city on the planet. I love it it's like Soho, but they speak Spanish. Yeah, I love it.
How about this wasn't on the list. How about your favorite place to play when you played soccer? Probably traveled all over the country.
Oh, well, I always loved playing at home. I must say that, two things were probably two special experiences. One, playing at Fresno State back in the day. Their stadium was right up on the field, so like their fans were like all on top of you. That was pretty cool. And then when we played UCLA in the tournament, it was just packed. It was down at UCLA. They beat us quite easily that day. But I got to play against this guy, Eddie Lewis, who ultimately played on the national team, was in the World Cup. Wow. And I just got to try to keep up with him every day, or up and down the flank. I barely did. He was a senior. I was a freshman. I got absolutely abused that day. But in terms of a cool place to play, the place was packed. These famous World Cup soccer players, Kobe Jones and Alexi Lalas, were on the sideline. So that was pretty exciting for a little kid from Minnesota just trying to keep up.
Very cool. Yeah. A journal or a blog you subscribe to?
I like Mark Manson's stuff. He's the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I like his stuff a lot. I like him too because he doesn't posture like, "Hey, I'm awesome, be like me." He's just got really measured advice and life perspectives. Like him a lot. But I also, most mornings, I'll read from, my favorite poet is Mary Oliver, and she has this collection of poems called Devotions, and they read like a psalm. So most mornings I'll read one of her poems.
You've shared a lot today, Bradley. What's a pet peeve of yours?
Oof. I have two conspicuous pet peeves. Litter bugs I just can't fathom in someone's mentality where they just throw a piece of trash on the ground.
Yeah,
Litter
what's
bugs, that's a
happening?
total pet peeve. And secondhand smoke. Europeans are so cool, but Europeans still smoke, and secondhand smoke to me is just a pet peeve. So
Mm.
those are two. Those big pet peeves.
You walk in a bar or a nightclub somewhere, and you're like, "What? What's that smell? Like what? They're allowed to smoke in here? Where are we?"
It's so nasty. It's like, why do I have to like be part of your choice?
Yeah, yeah. At 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, I feel fill in the blank.
Grateful.
Mm. Amen to that. Best purchase under $100 that has had a great impact on your life.
Oh, I know.
He's going to get
In my
it.
Airbnb.
He's going to get it.
Okay, I got. Let's see. Number one, a roller.
Ooh, nice.
Roller. Game changer for an old man. But this is my favorite one. $2.97. I bought
Oh,
this in Bangkok about 2 weeks ago in the Chinatown market. I'm from Minnesota. I was walking through the market thinking, hey, who the heck buys all this stuff? And there is a 1984 Minnesota State Fair hat.
you were
So this
9
is
years. You were 9 years old.
right. Maybe my favorite purchase ever. $2.97.
That's good. In Bangkok, I love it. Way to represent
Yeah.
the home state.
What are the chances?
Best takeaway from this show for our guests.
I would say to our guests that you've got two school leaders here who really want to help you survive and thrive. And I think your summary of the challenge and the opportunity in survive and thrive is the heart of the matter of how folks like the two of us and others in this space have the experience. We've been through the trenches, and now, hey, we want to help. So reach out. We are
Mhm.
here to support you. And we're begging you not to make the mistakes we made. And we're coming at this from an approach of not be awesome like us, rather, hey, we think the work's super important. We know it's hard and we want to help.
Amen to that, brother. Amen. One thing you're curious about.
Whew. Not to get political, I'm curious at what point our country's going to come together and start investing our amazing talents and intellect and resolve and character and courage to somehow address gun violence. And that's not just through legislation, it's about us being honest about who are we as a people that this kind of stuff is happening. Because, Andrew, I've been all around the world for the last 2 years, and the rest of the planet, they're looking at us going, what is wrong with that place?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious what it's going to take. I'm curious, to end on a positive note. I'm curious when, as a country, we're going to start celebrating educators. I've been getting on planes for 2 years, and I love that we celebrate our servicemen and women and allowing them to get on the plane first. What would it be like if airlines said, "Hey, any active teachers, get on first"? What if, like the country Finland, they celebrate their teachers? They are venerated in their culture.
Mm.
And you think about our teachers and our school leaders, folks who are limping away from the work, the most important work on the planet. So I'm curious, what does it look like for us as a culture to start celebrating educators as the top professionals? What if we start celebrating educators like we do entrepreneurs? We're never going to pay them as much as they're worth. What if we A's for appreciation? I'm curious, what does it look like for us as a culture to celebrate educators as much as we do like an entrepreneur or an entertainer? I'm curious about that.
Awesome answer. Great answer. Bradley, bring us home with a quote. Is there a quote that you could wrap us up or end the show with?
Probably my favorite quote is from the book Life of Pi. And the quote is that there is no greatness without goodness. There is no greatness without goodness. I love that quote.
Awesome answer. Awesome podcast. It was great to meet you. I'm really happy about your book and happy to celebrate it here today. There's that word. Check it out, guys. School Leadership A to Z. Bradley, why the three names? Let's end with that. Why the three names? Bradley, James, Davies.
Well, I joke that whenever my buddies have become principals or superintendents, all of a sudden their email signatures start to include a middle initial. You ever notice that? Whoa, wow, somebody's starting to take themselves seriously. So, hey, I wrote a book. I needed a fancy author name, right? So I just rolled with the whole thing. And truth be told, in some circles I go by James, in some circles I go by Bradley.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a nice fancy author name, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
so instead of taking myself seriously with a middle initial, I'm taking myself super
Real.
like I'm really serious.
Great
This guy ain't
answer. AJ, loved the show. AJ, thanks for tuning in. Bradley, best
Thanks,
on
AJ.
your journey. Guys, if I could help you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out at Andrew Murata 21. Keep surviving and thriving and keep rolling on your journey. Bradley, I wish you the best of luck. Be safe in your travels. Where's next? What country are you going to next?
Off to Japan to meet up with a dear friend and his family, where I get to celebrate my birthday on Friday with them. So I'm excited. A few hours. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, enjoy that, Bradley. Thanks for being on the podcast. Stay on the line for a moment, okay?
Thanks, Andrew.
All right, friends. Keep rolling and keep surviving and thriving on your journey. Signing off here on show number 243. Again, if I could help you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out. Keep rolling.